Okay, so what do you have to do if you have minor kids, kids under the age of 18? Um, I think deep down we all know, right, that if we have little kids, there's something that we have to do, there's some planning that we have to do, but maybe you don't know exactly what it is. Um, that is compounded by the fact that it just sucks to think about. It's not something that anybody wants to, to think about. I do this every single day. This is my job. This is what I do, and it's what I've been doing for years. I have two minor kids, and I put it off until the first time my husband and I were flying without our kids. Even though it's my job, even though I know better, literally until the night before we both got in an airplane. But I did it, right? I finally did it. So this is what you have to do. You have to, number one, I know that it's not nice to think of, but you have to think about who is going to be the guardian of your kids. If you're not here, your husband, the father, or the mother of the child is not here, well, who's going to step in and who's going to raise them? So you got to think about who's going to be the guardian of your kids, who's going to make the day-to-day decisions, who's going to make the decisions about where they go to school, things like that. That's called the guardian of the person. That's number one. Where they're going to live, all of that stuff. You have to think about that. And number two is who's going to be guardian of the property. That's the person who's going to control money, whatever assets there are that you leave to your kids. This person does not have to be the same person. It can be. In my case, it's the same person. Some people decide that they want different people serving in those different roles so that they can get sort of like checks and balances, in guardians of their kids. You can't just say who you want to be guardian, right? There's paperwork that we have to do, that we have to complete, and that we may have to file in court. But that's the first thing. Okay, who's gonna take care of my kids? Who's gonna raise my kids if, God forbid, I am not here? Issue number two, money. So most of us, right, we're working, you may be a professional, you're working, you're building your savings, your assets, etc. You may have a house, you may have a retirement account, whatever. But for most of us, whatever you have, right, the presumption is that whatever you have, you're going to leave to your kids, right, for their benefit. The thing is, legally, people, right, so kids under the age of 18 legally cannot own property. So if you do things like take out life insurance and leave them as beneficiaries, put your minor kids on as beneficiaries, you've just invited a court process, because legally, children cannot receive that payout. So what's going to happen is the court gets involved, and the court, those funds are frozen, and the court steps in, and the court oversees all of those assets. And you literally have to get a lawyer. If you want to access any of that money, you have to get a lawyer. The lawyer goes in front of the judge, and then the judge has to sign a court order authorizing the people who are in charge to get that money, right? To use that money. So what do? How do we avoid all of this? A trust. Trusts are great, but honestly, trusts for people who have minor children are a no-brainer. For example, in my trust, my mom is in charge of the trust. My mom can then decide, not a judge who I've never met, not some random, court system. My mom, who I know and who I trust, can decide my assets are in there, can decide, okay, I'm going to spend this much money to send the kid to, to summer camp, or for, tuition or medicine, medical bills, anything like that. But by doing that, you get to decide who's going to make these decisions, not a random court, not a random judge that you've never met. Not only is this, again, a no-brainer, because you should be the one that decides what's going to happen and who's going to step in if you're not here, no-brainer, but it's going to be a lot cheaper. So again, I know that this stuff, it sucks to think about. Nobody wants to do it, but it's just part of adulting. Adulting sucks, but we can help.